Good afternoon. It's been a long dream of ours in IKT-Norge to have a closer connection to the clean tech environment in Norway. We represent 450 ICT companies from all over Norway, small companies, big companies, banks, the aquaculture industry is also represented, and transport systems. Many more companies are on board our platform. And many of them are linked to Norway's very great advantage of being very high level in renewable energy. So it's a pleasure to be here today because we want to launch this cooperation, and we're building this platform called Cleantech Oslo, which is going to be a collaboration between the ICT sector of Norway and also the renewable energy sector. And the reason for what we're doing is because we want to have an international approach to the new project that we are building here in Norway. We will find new partners abroad and also working close to build new industry in Norway. So this is the reason why we're here today. And you're going to meet a lot of interesting people who has a different angle to do this. But I will start by saying that Oslo is a magical town in many ways. I am fortunate enough to have my kids grown up in a city who has been worldwide known for its climate budget and green governance, and also has been named the #1 city in the world for well-being, and also was named the European Green Capital of 2019. It's good to know as a mother that your kids will live in a city where the politicians have high ambitions to reduce the climate footprint, but also have ambitions to build new industry at the same time. So with that political background, I think we will start by inviting the politicians on board. And please welcome Victoria Marie Evensen. She is the Vice Mayor for Business and Ownership in the City of Oslo. Please welcome.
Thank you so much, and what a great introduction.
Victoria, there are many cities around the world who are trying to do the same thing as we are doing in Oslo and has a long experience of doing this. But I think that our big advantage in Oslo is actually that we have these politicians on board who has very high ambitions for reducing the climate footprint of both the industry and also the public sector. So now we are starting up now in Oslo. We will dive deeper into how we're going to do that later. But let me start by asking you, what is the most important thing for the city of Oslo on this aspect, and why is it important for you to have a clean tech hub?
Well, as you said in the introduction, Oslo is a city going green, and we have high ambitions, and in some ways we are also, I would say, mission-oriented or have a mission-oriented approach. And to be a part of initiatives like this is crucial, in my belief, in moving forward to a zero-emission society. And I think it's important to have in mind that the Norwegian economy is facing an enormous task with the transition to a sustainable and emission-free production. And the latest UN report, as we all know, underlined this seriousness. But then we also have to remember that we have some good opportunities, and to be able to create this clean tech hub and to cooperate with the businesses and those who have stakes in the same as we do, but with another approach. I think it's really important, and we have to build on that, because the municipalities and cities and regions around the world can't do this alone. We have to collaborate, and we have to do it together with you and together with all those who want to change the world.
That's quite big words.
Yeah.
But so a couple of years ago, when I started in the clean tech industry, I met the mayor of Oslo, Raymond Johansen, and he was very clear that the door is open for the industry to collaborate with the city of Oslo. And sometimes it's really hard to find that door.
Yeah.
And we think of this as an opportunity to get closer to the industry, closer to the city of Oslo, and link the industry close to your ambitions, and also find new technologies and new opportunities for the city. So I think that we have some good opportunities with the high ambitions that the city have, and also that you have this huge international reputation for being ambitious and also pull through, I would say, with the climate budget. How do you think is the best way we can work together to achieve this goal?
Well, as you said, it's our door is open, but obviously there's also a lot of things to consider when you are a municipality and in the green governance of the city. And that's why it's also important for us to make clear demands and to make the best results from that. I think it's really important to have the kind of arenas and collaboration that we are talking about today. And then we will try on our side to push the market forward and to use public procurements and other typically city-like tools to achieve this. I think this initiative, it has to come from the business community and it has to be on the premises of the business community. And that's why it's so important that the solar energy cluster and IKT-Norge and Oslo Business Region is taking the lead in such an initiative. And we are really pleased to be able to back that. And but it is important that it is a platform that the businesses feel like they need, and not just something that we are threading over their heads. So. And also there is a sort of a gap, I would say, between the local and national startup scene and how to scale internationally. And even though we have very many good companies in Oslo, we have a little bit to do. And we are lagging behind cities that we like to compare with, like Stockholm and Copenhagen. And that is also why it's important that we manage to make this sort of arenas to actually pull together and to bring Oslo even further and to rise to the challenge.
I would say that is a brilliant start, I would say, for this collaboration, and we will certainly do our best to aim as high as the city of Oslo does. But there is a collaboration who is very interesting to this launch, and that is the string collaboration. Can you tell us a little bit about what is the string collaboration and how do you think it will fit into this launch and Cleantech Oslo?
Well, first of all, I think it fits very well. Oslo is a member, and we are currently holding the chairmanship of the political cooperation organization String. And String's ambition is to connect the corridor from Hamburg to Oslo. It has 13 members from Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and Germany. And together, the region represents 14 million people. So it's quite a large scale. And we see this region as a world leader in green solutions. And the goal is to make ourselves even better at this. And we think that when we collaborate in this mega region, we can achieve better solutions for the people who live and work in the region, and also contribute to a good development of the corridor. And one of the major things is obviously transportation by a green way of transporting people and goods, such as trains. And that is one of the things that the String region is discussing, but also how to be a green hub with international potential and how to maximize that. And I think it's really important for Oslo and obviously Norway. We are at the periphery of Europe, and we need to collaborate with the continent. And the String collaboration is a great way to do that. And I think it fits really well with the Cleantech initiative.
So we have many good cards on our hands to be successful in this launch of Cleantech Oslo, but it's still very early days. And so we have politicians on board who have high ambitions and also has a high standard of doing sustainability work and also work on the Cleantech field, especially representing Norway, who has such a huge international reputation on this field. On the other hand, the society in Oslo is quite fragmented. There are many hubs, there are many small communities who sometimes work together and sometimes not. And our ambition is to be some kind of like a low-level place where we can build projects hopefully big projects internationally. And we have some ambitions of doing that. What kind of ambitions do you have for Cleantech Oslo?
Well, I would say that the ambitions are quite similar, and obviously in our toolbox we also have other tools, such as the innovation districts that will, I think, also be important to collaborate and to bring people together and to bring different kind of initiatives together, but also to bring the knowledge society and the businesses and everything we have in the innovation districts together, and that's one of the things that we are also doing, and I think that fits also very well with the Cleantech initiative. And of course, the great ambition of Oslo is that we need to be emission-free. We have set a goal to reduce our emissions by 95% within 2030, which is not a long time ahead. So we have to do everything we can, and that means that we actually have to find new solutions. We have to support new initiatives, and we have to do this together. So I think our ambitions and the greening of Oslo fits really well into the Cleantech initiatives and will be one of many relevant tools in our toolbox.
Okay, so the last question for you today is actually a personal question. And so if we were to build and succeed in building a platform for international collaboration and business development, as in the focus of Oslo, is there one city or country in the world that you will pick for us to aim at?
Well, I get quite often questions about how we collaborate with Bergen or Trondheim, and we do that, but obviously we want to be best in the Nordics and maybe even best in Europe. So if we need someone to, I think we have to reach to that ambition, and it's difficult for me to pick one city, but let's just say we want to be best.
Yeah. Thank you, Victoria, for coming by, and also we look forward to further collaboration with the City of Oslo.
Same to you.
So before next speaker gets to the stage, I would say that it's especially nice to have people in the audience again. And it's of course very nice to have you people watching the stream of this, but thank you to everyone in the audience for showing up today. And as all of you know, there is also a party afterwards, after being a long drought of parties here in the City of Oslo. So our next speaker, he is a partner of an investment company called Verdane. Erik Osmundsen, come to the stage, please. There's no point of doing Cleantech without finance. And first of all, can you tell us a little bit about the company Verdane and what goals and ambitions you have on this field?
Yeah, no, so Verdane is actually an old investment company, been around for about 20 years, doing growth investments. So basically, it's the stage after venture capital where the companies need to scale their organizations, scale their systems, go international, really go global, if you will. So that's what we do. We help them with the capital, and we help them with the skills to do that, basically. And my background coming from Norsk Gjenvinning, the NG group, I basically saw the enormous power of sustainability, not only to de-risk stuff, but to actually as a business opportunity. So this is actually what we want to do now in Verdane, is to couple technology and sustainability in order to create competitive advantage, and better companies and also better investments, of course.
So the growth of companies in Norway has been a little bit of a challenge for a long time. How are you working specifically in the Norwegian market on succeeding in this?
Well, I mean, I think different things, right? Because to me, coming from venture capital from a long time ago, I felt that the ambitions were a little bit low. In the sense that we want to build a company and we want to sell it to the Americans. If I'm being a little bit sort of abrupt here, but and as I said, a little bit less ambitious, and rather to build a global company and build a unicorn that where you can have sort of that position and located out of Oslo, if you will. So I think it's that, but it's also the fact that perhaps a little bit lacking the skills to do that. Because if you don't have the unicorns, if you don't have those people in your cluster or in your neighborhood, then it perhaps could be a little bit difficult to figure out how to do it and how to do it successfully. So obviously that's part of the gap we want to bridge.
I mean, sustainability has come as a huge impact on many industries. It changes everything. It's the same with digitalization as we experience every day in ICT Norway. How do you think it affects finance?
I think it changes finance dramatically, but I must say both in business and in finance, I think we are at the early stage of this, because from being sort of a positioning and a marketing ploy, maybe it's moved into sort of de-risking stuff. But I think for a lot of companies and for a lot of finance, it's still the opportunity of actually creating huge business opportunities are not yet taken. So I think at the moment, I think it's impossible to go into any boardroom or any investment discussion without discussing ESG. But still, I don't think those discussions are, perhaps already to the point of business opportunities yet, and which they will be very soon, in my belief.
So it's definitely hitting the Norwegian industry very hard. Do you see the same pattern globally, internationally, maybe specifically in Europe?
I do, and I think that I think we have an advantage that we are a little bit, in front of the curve. We have been in front of the curve on technology and also on sustainability now, but I think the others are very close behind. And if you see sort of the growth of sustainable clusters, sustainable companies in London, Paris, Berlin, it's growing very fast everywhere, I think. So I think we have some opportunities now to take some positions, but we got to be fast if we want to do that.
Is one of the reasons that we might get a little bit fat and lazy because of the oil and gas industry?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, again, I think that we have a lot of ambitious. People want to make it right, but you have to have sort of the examples and sort of you have to understand the journey. I think it's more of a skill gap than it's an ambitions gap, perhaps at this point.
So Cleantech Oslo aims to connect the renewable industry, all the clusters and the hydropower industry, the solar industry, and everything, closer to the ICT sector, the IT companies, and the digitalization of every branch. And what do you think you would need to succeed to make this successful internationally? What kind of advice would you give to us who starts to do more work in the world?
No, but I mean, the first advice is basically to do exactly what you're doing, because I think if you combine technology and sustainability, that is two megatrends that support each other. And as such, if you look at wind, it's the software that makes your wind farms run better. If you look at electrical vehicles, it's the software behind it that sort of enables the charging stations to have a maximum uptime. It's all these things, these trends. Are trends that we have been, advanced on, and where we can create the companies that will scale internationally. And from there on, I think the capital is there. If it's not there, then you should call me. and so from there on, it's basically find the partners that can bring you out. The partners who have the experience, to segment Germany, to figure out, the go-to-market strategy for England, that type of thing. Have done it before, and you can sort of learn from the people who've been there before. So
one of the employees in ICT Norway has been a student of innovation on different international levels, and she tells me that there is a higher grade of success in companies who start up as a startup who aims to do international work and are rigged for international work from the start, instead of those who start by saying, let's do, first we take Manhattan and then we take Berlin, but who aims really high in the start. And that's made me think that maybe this initiative as well also need to be ambitious in another way that we have thought about before. Do you think what kind of level of ambition do you think we should aim at?
No, but I would subscribe to that. I think that's exactly right. And I think if you're thinking of scaling your company with these type of companies, as first we do Norway, maybe Nordics, and then we'll grow out in Europe. I mean, your American competitors, they will have a humongous home market that they will start with, and as such they will have global aspirations. So I think you should have global aspirations with these type of companies, and you have to start thinking that way from the get-go.
Global ambitions, people. Thank you, Erik Osmundsen from Verdun. We will hear more from you later today.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's start in Berlin. Please welcome Jon Hansen.
Hello Oslo, my hometown, and hello to Oslo Innovation Week and Oslo Cleantech. This is a greeting from the Norwegian Embassy in Berlin. The market for clean technology is growing significantly here in Germany. Did you know that German startups are among the most innovative clean tech companies in the world? And as the world faces increasing shortages in energy, water and other natural resources, clean tech will provide the solutions we need. To succeed, we need more cross-border cooperation, public and private investments, and a clear policy agenda. We hope to hear from Norwegian clean tech companies who are looking towards Germany.
Thank you. Thank you, Jon Hansen, and thank you for greetings from Berlin. We're looking forward to more collaboration with you, and we'll get back to you also later today. So today we are fortunate enough to have the Estonian ambassador to Norway, Lauri Bambus, and also the CEO of the French-Norwegian Chamber of Commerce with us. And these are our friends, and we will also learn and aim for further collaborations with the rest of Europe. So please take the stage, Lauri and Ludovic. Thank you. So, first of all, the clean tech environment in Norway is huge. And it can be delivered into many, many different startups, but also old companies of Norway who's shaped Norway in many ways. I will start with you, Lauri, and ask you about what is the need for a clean tech hub in Oslo, and in which field in Estonia do you think that this can be important for collaboration?
Okay, thank you. First of all, of course, Estonia is always very pleased to participate in Oslo Innovation Weeks, and well, we are very happy to be with you, friends, here today. And also, we are looking forward to having further cooperation coming years, because everyone wins from learning together and also sharing the best experiences. So Estonia is also working very closely with the European Union member states and also with European countries like the Great Britain and Norway, but also beyond. So as we are talking about the clean tech, it's also the issues not only in Europe, it's a global thing. And whether we need more hubs in Norway or other countries, I think yes, as many as possible, and it's important that all those hubs are also communicating to each other. And we are not inventing new bicycles, not the e-bicycles, not the digital bicycle, but new thing, because we are all responsible, are committed for the reducing the ecological footprint in the world. So I think that we can, of course, rely very much on the hub in Oslo, in Norway, which would be the umbrella organization or umbrella for not only the startups and old companies, but also for the municipalities, the governmental organizations, as it's also in Estonia. So, and I think that it's a good idea.
But I think that we probably have a lot to learn from you in Estonia, because you have such high ambitions on digitalization and is quite forward on elections and so on. Is there any specific field that you think could be of interest of collaborating with Oslo on?
Let's start from that well, Oslo and Tallinn on the same latitude, on the 59th latitude, and we know exactly what is summers, what are the winters in our countries, etc. And it makes also us very concerned about the future, how we can be more efficient in energy, for example. And we are learning from Oslo, of course, how you are using the renewable energy in public transport. And if you will add the same as in Tallinn, free public transport, which would attract more passengers, then we will also talk less about the cars in town. But I think that if we can also look for the cooperation fields, there are very many new technologies using in new buildings, smart houses. It's absolutely obvious. But we have to think also about the old buildings, how we can renovate those, how we can make the heating system, cooling system, the ventilation, which was now the #1 issue during the Corona time, how we can work and facilitate these things. So I think that in the nearest future, there must be some kind of hackathon organized between our countries and our towns to find the people who would bring the solutions on the table.
We will be happy to host more hackathons. That's something we do quite a lot in ICT Norway.
Great.
Thank you. And Ludovic, thanks you for being here. On the French side, I know that there is a lot of collaboration going on already. Do you think there is any specific field that would be of interest to the French community of the industry?
Yes, indeed, there are plenty of opportunities. I must say that I've been working for 20 years now for the French Norwegian Chamber of Commerce, and especially with Oslo business region and the city. I've never had so many requests from French companies, especially large corporate, asking for connection with innovative Norwegian companies on clean tech. And I think that now the Norwegian market has a lot of visibility in France, and we see plenty of opportunities. Of course, Oslo might be maybe 5-6 years ahead on EV, on electric mobility, but also on waste management, on decarbonization of the industry, including CCS, ammonia, green shipping as well. There are a lot of opportunities to cooperate with the French market. So a lot of cross-industrial cooperation, as we already have with the city of Toulouse, that Oslo has a specific cooperation with them on the aerospace and energy fields. So yeah, decarbonization might be hydrogen as well. France is investing 7 billion euro on hydrogen within 2030, and there are a lot of interesting companies in Oslo that might have potential there.
Ludovic, you have been in the game for 20 years. Yeah. So what changed? What made Norway more interesting to French companies than before?
I think you are becoming more visible. Mm-hmm. Oslo, having been the European capital in 2019, now we see a lot of success stories. On CCS, Norway is visible. On, again, electric mobility, you have a lot of articles in the French newspapers showing how Oslo and Norway succeeded on this. One of the key of the success, I would say, as well discussed in France, is how you manage to have a constructive dialogue between the industry, between the policymakers, between the research and academics. So yeah, visibility has increased a lot.
So it helps to have the governance part aboard, both the city of Oslo and also the state of Norway on board to do this job.
Yes, it's a priority. Yeah.
Okay, so we are in the. I wouldn't say where we are in the beginning. We have a team of excellent partners in this network, but sometimes these things succeed, sometimes they don't. What would be important for you to make this succeed? What is your interest in building these bridges between Estonia and France and Oslo?
Maybe I should say once again that it's important not only to leave the startups and then companies alone. It's important also the collaboration between the municipalities and then governmental level and even further on beyond. So, because there are good and fresh ideas. And sometimes we're also saying in Estonia that, well, we have more ideas than financial support, but, well, I was very pleased to hear that, well, there are also financial people who are looking forward, invest in this thing. So there are, of course, challenges. And, of course, all those big goals from the, let's say, European Union, but also from Norway and other countries to reduce CO2 emissions, etc. So there are big challenges, of course, ahead us. And of course, having this opportunity, it was mentioned that Oslo was the Green Capital of Europe 2019. Tallinn was also elected as the Green Capital of Europe for 2023. So before that, we have to improve our cooperation, definitely.
I'll take that as an invitation.
Absolutely. So everyone is warmly welcomed.
What about you, Ludwig?
I would say co-innovation is a very high priority on the agenda. First, we have bilateral Chamber of Commerce, so we work both ways. We work tightly with what we call the Team Norway in Paris, with the Innovation Norway office and the Norwegian Embassy in Paris, to help Norwegian companies to succeed into the French market. But we see on these fields, clean tech, we don't see a lot of competition, but really, to be honest, plenty of opportunities for co-innovation. And as we have seen here in Norway, companies like Air Liquide, like Total, they brought Norwegian know-how and skills, and they use these skills abroad as well. So we see plenty of opportunities for the European market, but as well for Africa, for other regions in the world. Yeah, win-win situation.
I mean, on Thursday last week, the Norwegian Association for Norwegian Enterprises launched a huge report about what do the 2,700 companies they represent feel is the biggest, most important advice to give to the new government of Norway. And as you know, we are in negotiations to find new leaderships in Norway. And there was one clear feedback from all these companies. It's the lack of accessibility to skilled work power. So people who are experts in digitalization, who has a engineering background, who are strong in sustainability questions and stuff like this. It's there is a Norwegian expression who is the market is vacuumed for talent. So this is something that have been a discussion for a long time in Norway, and also especially for IKT-Norge, because we always ask for more people who can be educated in digitalization. But we also have found a way to attract more talent in Norway. And salaries are quite good. It's the welfare state is quite amazing and I would say brilliant in some ways. Good ways of living in Norway. Do you think there will be some kind of easier way to collaborate on talent exchange between Estonia and France that we haven't discovered yet?
Of course. But you're absolutely right. In this sense, we are a little bit competing. Because, well, Estonia is also providing good environment, clean environment, etc. Maybe not in salaries based, but anyhow, I think that during this COVID time we also learned that somehow we can cooperate remotely. That not necessarily we have to sit in the one building in the same room. However, of course, we learned also that the physical contacts are always better. How to find the solutions, how to find enough talented people. As I said already, we have ideas, but how to implement them, it's a question. But again, sometimes it's enough if you have, let's say, combined and joined, and then we don't need many teams. We may have one team for 2 countries, for one region.
That's good advice, yeah.
That's
Northern Europe.
Yeah.
Ludovic, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. And we might find hybrid solutions. I think that's right, that the Norwegian way of life, and especially Oslo, as it has changed over the 20 years that I experienced, is really matching expectation from younger generation. So we see plenty of young, educated French people willing to come to Oslo and enjoying the balance that you can find on the private and professional life, and all the opportunities to build a career here. But as well, as Mr. Ambassador mentioned, we see plenty of opportunities for remote cooperation, and especially with Toulouse, with this aerospace valley cluster there, where you might find way for nearshoring cooperation. Might be both ways as well, having very agile structure and working on project basis. So that's something that could be explored further.
So we obviously look very much forward to develop more collaboration with both France and Estonia. But we have also a core value in the Cleantech Oslo, and it's really early days already, but we have said that we won't waste anyone's time and we don't do no bullshit. So do you have any kind of advice for us on that level that we will send to everyone who is on board here?
It's very difficult to say some very unique recipes that, well, and now we will solve all and everything. Of course, the key word is still the cooperation and to be openness and to be trustful to each other. As there are opportunities and commitments which we have done for our future generations. So I'm looking very much forward to having very close cooperation between Oslo and Tallinn, but not only, I mean that between the countries as well. So it was mentioned Bergen and other cities. So the same goal.
Let's do it.
I really believe in cooperation between clusters and hubs because you save time, it accelerates everything. So I think that this initiative is really good, and now that maybe it will be a bit structured, we really would like to invite you to France, to Paris, to Lyon, to Nantes, very different cities, and of course Toulouse, and to showcase Norwegian solutions and explore cooperation.
Thank you so much, both of you.
And if after this week we will find the hackathon time for our companies, it will be already a big step further.
We will find a time for hackathon.
Let's do it.
I will promise you this. And I will also say that we will probably aim for a study trip to both Estonia and France next year.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. So, first of all, we are lucky to live in a city who have high ambitions, both on the political side, in the business community, and also in the startup community to make this happen. There are no recipe to make sure that it will be a success. I guess it will depend on the kind of energy in the companies and the people who are on board. And we are also welcoming new members. So now we go to break, and this is from Oslo, first round.
Hej Oslo Innovation Week. Mit navn er Poul Knudsgaard. Jeg er erhvervsdirektør i Aalborg og direktør for Green Hub Danmark. Green Hub Danmark er et offentligt-privat samarbejde, som skaber rammerne for test og demonstration af nye grønne løsninger. Vi samarbejder med både nye og eksisterende virksomheder, og både nationalt og internationalt. Aalborg og Green Hub Danmark ønsker jer held og lykke med jeres nye initiativ. Oslo er en vigtig samarbejdspartner for os, og vi har gennem årene skabt rigtig flotte resultater. Det samarbejde glæder vi os til at fortsætte. Hej.
Thank you, Paul. For those who don't speak Danish, we'll do a direct simulation afterwards, but the video will be texted in a few hours, so stay tuned afterwards as well. Welcome to the next, the second session of this launch of Oslo Cleantech Hub. We're going to stay here for the next 40 minutes, at least in half an hour, both with some presentation and a debate at the end. So this is going to be a fun 30 to 40 minutes coming. So please stay tuned. I think what is on every European's mind at the moment is energy. Energy cost is high in Norway, we think. Go to Germany, go to Denmark, they think differently, even higher. And what better way to introduce Oceanside, a solar energy company, and who is better to talk about Oceanside than the CEO? Børge, the floor is yours. Please come up and tell us a little bit about solar, your company, and something about the energy prices as well, I guess. Give him a big hand.
Thank you very much, Fredrik, and thank you to Oslo Cleantech for inviting our company to present. It's about a few words on the company. We are now more listed on the Euronext Growth Exchange. Roughly a year ago, we acquired up to now 15 million euros for this initiative. We are 12 employees, headquartered at Fornebu, and subsidiaries in Shanghai, China, and in Singapore. It's about photovoltaics, solar energy, and we have a large ambition in our company. Our aim is to provide the best design for floating solar systems in the world. And I'll get back in more about the rationale and the market for this now that we see. it's a tremendous growth now in the solar, and when you then have the lack of surface area to deploy these huge utility-sized solar farms, then you go to the water surface, and this is now very recently being discovered, only a few years back. And in this competition for these designs, we in Oceanside have a unique technological solution to provide these floating solar farms. We now have an extensive project pipeline across the world for this type of floating systems. And our business model is that we are an architect or a designer for these systems, and then we help the EPC companies and the developers in constructing the systems. And this is a very scalable and asset-light system where we can collaborate with a high number of partners. Few words on the why floating solar. All analysts now agree, I think all the predictions say that solar or photovoltaics will be the dominating pillar among the renewables. At the moment, this is the most affordable source of energy. It is now beating fixed monopile wind turbines also, and if you look at the resource maps on the world, the application area is huge. The problem, you might say, is the availability and cost of land, where it gets into competition with agriculture, urbanizations, or other recreational areas. And then you start looking at the water surfaces. And like I said, in this competition to solve this technological challenge, Oceanside has this very special solution. Some of the most important application areas, just picking out 4 different. On the upper left, this is from Latin America, countries like Brazil, Colombia. We have dense rainforest. It will not be accepted in the future to deforest these areas to build the large solar farms, but at the same time, they have the huge waterways and reservoirs and lakes where you can deploy these systems. Secondly, on the upper right, we have the hydroelectric power reservoirs where you can place the floating solar on top of the reservoir, and you have a very short transmission line to the existing grid infrastructure. And on the lower left, we have the example from the large cities, typically in Southeast Asia, where the cost of land is tremendous. A picture from Singapore, I believe, where this is virtually the only source of renewable, where you can have, they have large surface area on the ocean to deploy these systems, while the rooftops are scarce and the cost of land, of course. And not to mention, on the bottom right, the island communities, archipelagos, tourist destinations like Maldives, Seychelles, where they have huge cost of power. Diesel is transported out to these islands, and where you can deploy floating solar to alleviate this situation. The way we do this is that we construct this, we have this very special membrane technology. We place essentially a large reinforced membrane on the water surface. These individual rings are huge, the size of a football pitch each. And then we put agglomerates of these and connect them to a floating transformer, up to 10 megawatts. Then we deploy clusters of these, and in total making large scale floating solar. I think there is a short video clip showing how this is being done. This is an example from the south of Europe in Albania, where we weld these structures on shore and then deploy them onto the lake and tow it into position close to the existing powerhouse on the hydroelectric powerhouse. And then we deploy the solar panels at a very high speed. In this example, it's 1,600 panels. So it's done extremely quickly, which is also a cost driver in constructing these systems. Just for comparison, this is being done at a fraction of the cost of a typical rooftop system, for instance. So, who are the competitors? For some time, it's being dominated by Chinese company Sungrow. They and others, they construct these blow-molded pontoons, which they interconnect, and then they essentially place a solar panel on each of these. And on our system, on the bottom left, it's from the Philippines, where we have a system. Main elements is the reduced capex, cost of installation. We use less plastic material to facilitate the same surface. We have also a much higher efficiency and the yield from the installed power because of the direct heat transfer to the water body. And there we can operate the solar cells at a lower temperature and then increase the voltage and the energy yield. And the installations can be done more rapidly. We can aim to deploy each of these floaters per day, so you can build large utility, hundreds of megawatts. On top of this, it's a more seaworthy construction. We have deployed these systems on the west coast of Norway on salt water, and and also we can take this is directly in the typhoon belt in Southeast Asia, so we can take the high winds. And the logistics, which is very important these days, the volume of these pontoons is tremendous. You have to use up to 15 times the number of 40-foot containers to ship the same volume for the installed power. Very briefly on our partners today, we work with Statkraft in Albania, also SN Power, now more acquired by Scatec, but this is a joint venture in the Philippines with Aboitiz Power on their hydropower dam there. And we have a project, EU-funded project together with Fred Olsen Renewables on building a system in the Atlantic outside Gran Canaria. This is the place where you have the strongest insulation in Europe, actually. Also, a lot of activity in the Americas and south of Europe, Greece, Cyprus, and Mediterranean, as well as the Middle East and Southeast Asia. We also, only a few days ago, we got also a contract in China for a system outside the city of Yantai. This is a city with 6.5 million inhabitants and very costly energy, primarily from coal-fired. So floating solar is perhaps the most efficient way to displace CO2 emissions, if you think about the bang for the buck on the investments. So to round this off, we will maintain and protect our intellectual property in this, and we will drive the continuous development of these floating systems, and seek out the global partnerships with the large energy producers now, and achieve our revenues through the license fee and royalty arrangements that we obtain from these collaboration.
Thank you, Børge. And last question, what's the greatest barrier for further growth for a company like Oceanside?
Yeah, I think it's, of course, there is a lack of a home market. We have had these systems deep in some Norwegian fjords, partly illegal systems, and the governmental or the permitting is difficult, I would say, in Europe, because it digs into, it's a new thing, and you have to align different departments and coordinate this. And I think that's the main. But elsewhere, China, for instance, this is more easy, rapid processing of these things. So that I think is, and of course the general awareness of this possibility. This is a very profitable systems. Could be even in Oslo Fjord or yeah.
And it's available on Euronext Growth. No, thank you, Børge, and give him a big hand. We talked about friends from other nations, and our closest neighbor and a big partner of at least IKT-Norge, I think many of you here, is Gothenburg. So we have a little greeting from Gothenburg, I think. So look to the screens also here, and you are home. Stay screened.
Hi Oslo, hi everybody at Oslo Innovation Week. I'm Maria, Director of Clusters and Innovation at Business Region Gothenburg in Sweden. We have for quite many years been into the cleantech sector and many times cooperated together with the city of Oslo or companies in Norway. We usually take turns in inspiring each other to take the next step to push the development. For example, we followed you in creating emission-free and silent construction sites. And we are now setting the agenda for fossil-free buildings and creating the value chain for recycling of construction materials. In Gothenburg, we have recently decided to establish a green city zone in a very large part of the city center and in neighboring municipalities, with no CO2 emissions at all from transports of goods and people in the year 2030. We therefore welcome all international companies with innovative solutions that in partnerships with us would like to test and verify solutions in the zone. And of course, together with the city of Oslo, we would like to share the experience and the need for pushing policies supporting sustainable innovations. Have a great week, everybody, and bye for now.
Thank you, Sweden. Thank you, Gothenburg, and welcome back live here in Oslo. We have a great people here, a little bit of a discussion. And first of all, I would like to introduce the newcomers. So I'll start with you, Morten, and you're from the University of Oslo, a little bit about both university, yourself, and the connection with the sustainability and things we've been talking about here.
Yeah, I'm from the University of Oslo. I'm professor in computer science. I used to be the dean of the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Science until recently. Right now, I'm in charge of building up a fairly large center called D-Science. It's on data science. And of course, we have priorities in areas like machine learning, artificial intelligence, digital twins, knowledge representations. We have also selected application areas like energy and climate, smart environments and mobility, and we collaborate with the Gothenburg region on mobility and so on. So, and of course, our role as a university has been the same for many, many years. We educate people and we do research. However, we do it differently today than we did 10 years ago. For example, more and more in collaboration with public sector and industry. So I think that is enough to begin with.
Yeah. We'll get back. Physically, very close here, and physically co-located almost in Oslo as well. Atle, tell a little bit about you and your startup lab, the company that you represent. Sure.
Thanks a lot, Fredrik. Well, my name is Atle Christiansen, and I've worked, I guess, at the intersection of energy, climate, and technology for the last 25 years. And I need to confess, being here today, that I think we've never witnessed sort of the level of attention that these issues get today. So I worked in various roles. I've been an entrepreneur, I've been an advisor, board member, but today I represent Startup Lab. For those of you who don't know Startup Lab, we're an incubator and an early stage investor. Since 2012, we've supported more than 400 companies growing out of Oslo. 74% of these companies are still growing and include some household names like many of you have heard of. That's the likes of Kahoot, that's Remarkable, that's No Isolation, Ties, just to mention a few. We also invest in companies, and out of those 400, I think we've invested in like 115 companies this far. So that's a little bit about Startup Lab, and I think in terms of context, I think we've been sort of technology agnostic historically. That's just sort of leaning in on the teams that if you have a great idea, we will support you. But I think there's an ambition that we also want to position ourselves and sort of contribute to societal challenges and environmental challenges. So that's why we've launched a couple of initiatives that I might get back to afterwards. I think sort of the areas of energy and sort of the green transition and climate change is certainly high up on the agenda, also at Startup Lab these days.
Thank you. And we just had a presentation about solar energy. That gives me opportunity to introduce Maya. But please introduce yourself and the cluster that you represent.
Thank you. My name is Maya, and I work as an EU advisor for the Norwegian Solar Energy Cluster and Energy Valley. I split my time 50-50 between the two. We represent energy technology, the industry in Norway as a whole, but more specifically in the Oslo area. Together, we actually have started what we call Energy Invented, which is an innovation platform. We aim to be the world leading in energy tech, the startup community for energy tech, and we're hoping for more companies to join us there as we go along.
You have been introduced already, but I'll pose a question to you, Erik, and that's about the finance. And we talked about Euronext Growth, which is one of the lesser Oslo Stock Exchange, if you like. How do you see the relationship between finance, green business, good, bad? How to explore this further?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's many different ways to look at that. I mean, as I alluded to earlier, I think this is a great business opportunity, and therefore it's a great investment opportunity, right? So that's sort of the basis. But I think on the bad side, I think that perhaps there is a little bit of a hype in this market, and as we know, the people who have seen hypes before, that there might be a crash after the hype, right? And I think that that could be quite brutal in sort of the short term. And so if you sort of think about what happened after sort of the .com crash, for instance, right? That's when the big companies, that's where the big opportunities lie. So I think the future really lies in finding those companies and funding those companies that really can survive through the upcoming crash and then become tomorrow's leaders, basically.
Interesting. We'll get back to that as well. But last but not least, you've been on stage before, Victoria, but you mentioned in your previous presentation or discussions that you're working on innovation districts. And for some of us who are not totally familiar with what it is, I know that there's connections here as well between the university. But what is an innovation district? How are Oslo working on it? And how does this support sustainability and the green business?
Well, innovation districts are geographical areas where we see knowledge, research, urban development, and business development in context, and we try to make a common ground. We have ambitions to make Oslo a test arena to verify and demonstrate new technologies and services using urban development, and innovation districts are a really important tool in that matter. We are developing 3 in Oslo. It's Oslo Science City, which Morten knows very well, where life science, healthcare, and data science is the focus areas. It's Hovinbyen, which focuses on circular economy. And it's Innovasjonsdistrikt Sentrum, which will be focused on data-driven entrepreneurship. And technology is relevant and important in all of the innovation districts, obviously. And that's why I think they will be good ways to actually make real the vision of being a test bed and to try to demonstrate. But also important, equally important, or maybe more important, is that they are also clusters, and clusters are valuable, like all of these panelists know, and to make that common ground and to be able to share experiences and discuss relevant issues is also really important in the innovation districts. But they are geographical areas, really concrete, and will solve relevant issues.
So entering Centrum, entering data. Morten, you mentioned that D for data, I guess. And a little bit about what relation between that and what we are talking about here, green business, sustainability, and maybe what kind of the ambitions are for the center that you're developing.
Yeah. Data is important all over the place. And over the past years, research groups across the university has worked on different challenges with respect to data, either in health tech, in health and medicine, in energy and climate, in ocean space and all over, and also mobility and smart environments in bank and finance. And these are typically 4 areas that we are digging into. What the university is doing here is, of course, to educate people under the umbrella of these science. We have 350 PhD students now, and we're going to hire 60 new ones in the next year. So it's a huge group of people that is important for working in industry and public sector in the years to come. Not all of them can work at the university, because yeah, that's obvious. So we educate these guys and also master students. When it comes to the importance of data, it's of course, data is more than data, it's digital resources, it's how you handle it systematically, with how you structure it, how you use various methods, develop methods and algorithms to analyze data and so on. And these are, and you can say this is a generic thing. Yeah. However, in order to use it properly, we need to also know the different application domains, and the energy domain is important, and in various ways, both from a very close energy material point of view, batteries, solar energy, hydrogen, but even more on system level, where we are going to introduce solar energy and wind energy into the marketplace. How does the systems develop, for example? And and on top of that, again, we also have to discuss with the people from humanities and social sciences, how are we going to implement this to really make the transition into society? And within the area, within the Oslo Science City, D-Science has a special role on the digitalization and data science area, in collaboration with sustainability and the green shift on one hand, and also health tech and life science on the other hand. How this will develop in the years to come, it's difficult to say, but it's this science center, this endeavor, what we might call, because it's more than a center, is one of the largest things that the university has done ever, I think. Hopefully we will succeed, but we need help from researchers, but also help from society and of course, and also the municipality of Oslo, in order to have success in this big job we are facing. And the plans for Oslo Science City is going to be launched in a couple of months, I believe, and there is some interesting pictures that I have seen that is really promising for D-Science, I believe. So.
All right, so stay tuned on that.
Look, I'm looking forward to it, and you should as well.
A little bit of a pre-commercial there. Atle, you mentioned going from generic to more pointed, I guess, and I guess the energy which you're working for, how did that come about, and how is that working, and how do you see it progress further?
I think the whole notion of sort of network programs or industry programs was kicked off a few years ago within the mobility space, where I think we have some successes in terms of matching ambitious startups with established industries. Right. I think that ties into the overall ambition, and I think there's an element of sort of what we see happening, and I think there's the booming interest we see both from startups, from investors, and our partners, in particular in energy, is just booming. I think in response to that, that's what we launched. That goes to what we do. So, of course, number one is that we are only concerned about one thing, that's helping startups to succeed. That's our mantra. It's always very important, so help them succeed. So I think, how do we do that? Well, we do more than just offering them a clean desk, access to Wi-Fi and coffee. I think a key value we offer is also the network. And one way of doing that is the Startup Lab Energy that we just recently launched with the help of the Ministry of Petroleum and Energy present. So what does that do? Well, we connect startups with established industries, established partners, research institutions, and other stakeholders. So that's just sort of a forum where they can meet. So in practice, what is that? How does that create value, you might ask, for startups? And it's incredibly important for startups to meet potential partners, get their first client. They might get a pilot project, and that's just critical to their growth. And on the other hand, you can ask what's the value for the partners, because at Startup Lab we have 26 partners. We launched the initiative with the help of 6 of those partners. Right. And obviously for them, the motivation and I think the value creation differs. Some of them are interested in sort of learning about sort of the most recent trends on technology. Some of them are looking for deal flow, obviously interested sort of investing alternatives, and some of them are also looking for, I guess, partners on collaboration. So that's why we launched the initiative, and I think we mapped out more than 150 companies in the energy space already, of which actually 34 have sort of offices in the co-working spaces in Oslo and Bergen. So I think that sort of merits the so-called the booming interest we see in energy and clean tech.
Thanks. Maya, I'll get back to you. Maya, we had this ocean sun, and we're from the land of midnight sun, more or less. And that means also half the year we don't have sun, more or less, as well. So how do ocean, sun, solar energy connect from a Norwegian perspective?
It works very well. This is a myth. We need to kill it right away. We've installed solar panels in Svalbard. If it works there, it works everywhere. So that's just a myth that needs to be killed straight away. Solar works very, very well in Norway.
I'll get back to Morten as well, but we should discuss R&D. I mean, the need for research and development. And I know you specifically work on that one. And how do you see that? And also from a European perspective, we have many European friends here, and I think being close to Europe is probably more important than ever. Some might disagree, but that's my point anyway.
Absolutely.
A little bit on how you work on R&D, and I'll get back to you on that one as well, Morten.
Well, a lot of the possibilities are in Europe. They are far ahead of us when it comes to solar technology and the rollout of the technology. So we can look to Sweden, for instance. They have a lot of solar energy, and they have bigger parks than us, let's say. We're getting there, but we're 3, 4, maybe 5 years behind. So European projects is definitely a possibility for us. There's a lot of calls in the Horizon Europe funding program. And we have a lot of startups and companies that can deliver the technology. So we just need to connect them to the right actors around Europe.
Morten, and just give me a hint if you want to say something. Morten?
Yeah, I just want to mention the importance of an environment at Startup Lab, and it's important for our students, it's important for our research. It's a short distance to discussing ideas that is outside the scope of basic research, for example. And the collaboration with Startup Lab and other incubator as well is important for the university. I wanted to mention that.
Say a few words about how do we connect with the rest of Europe on the R&D side of things. Europe is investing billions
in general. I talk on behalf of the University of Oslo. We are a part of the international research community. So we import a lot of research all the time, and we do research together with friends all over the world. So and that is mostly basic research. Right. And that is, of course, important as the basis of things. Then we go to we have the EU system. Right now we are, as an example, writing a huge application to the Marie Curie Action, a so-called co-fund program, where we are going to hire close to 50 postdocs over 3 years. Right. And what we do there, we tailor this for collaboration with industry. So this program needs a secondment, so we are looking for partners in industry where they are for 3 to 6 months while they have their postdoc position in a research group. And together with UIO Energy, we have Vebjørn Bakken here, he's in charge of that. We are going to have a fairly large chunk of these people within the energy domain, and also towards solar energy and energy system development. And in addition to that, we have got the Startup Lab Energy, which is important for taking the new, very good ideas and create new companies.
Victoria?
Yeah, I just have to add one thing to the innovation districts that I forgot earlier, and maybe I forgot it because it's so obvious, but I have to say it anyway. But obviously, sustainability and achieving the climate goals is essential in all of our innovation districts, so that's on camera as well. But what I signed on to say is that to the City of Oslo, the cooperation and collaboration with Europe is really important. And as it has been mentioned earlier today, we have have been the European Green Capital in 2019, and that was a really good opportunity for Oslo to showcase our solutions, to showcase our ambitions, and to get new ways of collaborating with Europe. And we are part of Move 21, and we are part of the Horizon project, and we also have the C40 collaboration, which is more international than just Europe, but still. And also it was mentioned earlier by our French friend, the need for CCS. And that's also really important in a European context to us. We have applied for EU funds for parts of the project, and we hope to get that because that will be really important in realizing the project. But also how that project can be relevant in all of Europe. There are 400 or 500 similar facilities that need the same technology, and that will be a really important task to get done in order to reduce emissions in 400 or 500 facilities or 400 or 500 cities. So that's something that we just have to manage.
That's true. And there's a political side of that as well. I mean, there's just been an election in Germany. There's debate exactly on CCS, but we leave that for now. It's an important issue to tackle, at least. Erik, you may ask for I'm not sure it's this topic, but...
No, I just want to add to sort of the general topic here that we tend to think about innovation and as startups, as founders and startups, and I just want to add that within sort of the innovation district or within sort of this realm, we have the big industrial companies, and they are rather important. We have some leading ones here in Oslo. I used to lead the NG. We had the most advanced sorting line for paper in the world. And basically that is robotics and it's systems integration based on artificial intelligence. So how do we sort of integrate that, or Yara's push into carbon sequestration in the soil? I mean, they are leading, and what type of R&D do we need to actually certify that that's actually happening? So we're pushing the envelope, and we got to bring industry with us on this journey.
Just on that note, or on the investment note, I guess you're investing more than in Norway, right? That's correct. But how do you see like Norway versus Sweden versus any other European country when it comes to finding the best companies to invest in, to be honest?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for exactly this intersection of sustainability and technology, I think the Nordics have been an excellent market because they have so many ideas and so many things that you can sort of bring out to the world. I think that the big change now for just this year, Germany surpassed us. So now we're sourcing more in Germany than we do from the Nordics. And so that tells you a little bit about the trend and so how fast these things are actually changing. So I think it's interesting to see when you talk to the Danes and you find sort of the robotics cluster, the wind cluster, or you go to Finland that actually have an electrical vehicle cluster, and you see the companies that pop up. They should perhaps be in Norway. I think.
Agree, Atle?
Yeah, I just wanted to
probably would welcome them to Startup Lab, I guess.
Of course. I just wanted to add one thing on the importance of collaboration, and I think we recently launched an initiative, partly thanks to Oslo Kommune as well, called 2030. And I think if we look upon the whole issue of climate change, it's so complex. So this initiative actually breaks that down to defining very specific climate headaches. So it's an innovation program, it's sort of an event. Now we've just been through phase one, where Oslo Kommune is one of the participants, sitting down with large corporations, breaking that down. Second phase of that is we can add value, is that basically throw that at the startup community in Norway, ask them to come up with practical solutions. I think that's sort of enhancing and sort of illustrating the value of collaboration in this, attacking from a very practical point of view. So thanks to Oslo Kommune, which I guess is both an initiator and also a partner. So that's part of the...
Just a follow-up question. Everybody is interested. What kind of, if you should pick a couple of companies that you would like to mention, that's in this. We need to know a little bit about the companies that you have in the lab, so to say.
Yeah, this is always a tricky part. But I think in terms of knowing sort of who we work with, I guess that's your question. There's partners, there's one thing. But I think among the energy-related companies that we work with, to mention some of the examples, I think you'll find companies solving very, very specific issues. Like there's a company called Spor, and they actually have an AI-powered platform for monitoring birds on wind farms. Then you have those attacking obviously more complex issues. There's a company, Heimdall Power, which is sort of a rapid transition to sort of fully digitized electricity grid assets. Sounds complex. There's a company called Repack. Sort of their vision is basically to enable the reused battery revolution. So I think there are sort of all the ways of attacking the very complex issue of energy and sort of breaking that down. And then, of course, we also have invested in a company called Seg Power, which has to one of the areas where I think the need for knowledge is key. And what they do, they provide solutions to produce clean hydrogen from natural gas. So I think that sort of illustrates the breadth and the scope of energy as such. And all of these companies are good examples, both from very, very specific problems, which are very important for the offshore wind industry, and then to sort of more infrastructure sort of types of issues.
I know it's impolite to mention so, but you could go on the website and see the rest of them as well and learn more. Morten, you asked for the word.
Yeah, the usual way we collaborate with industry and unit in public sector is through projects.
Right.
But when building these signs, we are also inspired by what's happening elsewhere in the world. And I can mention the Alan Turing Institute in London as one example. Another is the Swedish eScience Research Center in Stockholm, across universities. And one of the things they do in Sweden that they are quite good at is to engage industry in capacity building. How you get advice from industry to build capacity for the future. This is the long-term goal of a university, is to build capacities on the correct areas. And we can do it ourselves, and we do it ourselves all the time. But what we want to achieve through these signs is also, let's call it a strategic advisory type of group that can give us the good advice for building capacity, both with respect to education, but also what to really do research on in order to meet short-term and long-term requirements. And you will hear from me about this fairly soon. We are working on it at the moment. And also involve startup lab and incubators in that work.
You mentioned C40 and you mentioned some of the projects that you've been working on. And of course, most of the diplomacy is done nation to nation. But might we see increasingly that you do city-to-city corporations? And how do you see that can be a part of bringing Atlas startups to Berlin or to Hamburg, which I know is a close companion of Oslo?
I would absolutely say that we see cities collaborating more and more, and city-to-city diplomacy, and I think that is because cities are in front of the green shift. Cities are driving the green shift, and cities have to deliver solutions to our inhabitants, and they have high demands, and maybe higher demands than the national population at some points, and that's why I think that we will see more city-to-city collaboration in the future.
That's what we'd like to hear. Driving growth, is that legal to say? Yeah.
Yeah.
In the climate world, I mean, how do you work with accelerating? First you invest, and then of course you want to get your money back. That's how investors work, I guess. So how do you work with accelerating in a field like what should call it sustainability then?
Yeah, well, you know, I think we have done sustainable investment for a long time,
right.
But you know, the latest fund is actually an impact fund.
Right.
What that means is that you know, it's not only financial criteria, it's impact criteria that are set at the get-go of the investment.
Right.
And one of the criteria is that the impact grows as the company grows, which means that, you know, as this becomes more profitable, as you know, the returns are better, the impact is also greater, right? And I think that's an important thing to acknowledge, that in order for impact to grow, you actually need a bottom line as well. The triple bottom line is also economic.
Yeah.
And as such, this is, you know, you take great companies from Startup Lab and you wanted to bring them to Berlin. Well, we have a team in Berlin. We help them into Berlin, you know, so that's what we do. So, and I kind of think that the key role of cities, and there are many roles, but one of the key roles is to make sure that the cooperation between the industrial, the universities, the startup labs, the founders, the financial players, that works. Because, and again, we're Norwegian, right? So we can cooperate and we can share. I think that's a great asset that we have. And so to really, you know, create these companies that can grow, and then, you know, companies like ours, we take them abroad, we bring them into new markets, help them fund, and help them, you know, with the skills to do that.
We are moving into the end of the debate, and I asked you to come up with like two, call it tips, or two notes that we take with us to how to create this. But we are building a clean tech hub, and how we can use both Oslo City and all the great things that you've been doing, but also the universities, the companies, the investors. Tips and tricks. Start with you, Maya.
I think international projects, EU-funded projects, is a good place to start because it will showcase us all over Europe. So there's a lot of funding opportunities, and we're here together. We can make a good consortia. I'm sure we have some challenges we can solve. So I think we can start there. But also our innovation platforms like Energy Invented, the Energy Valley, and the Norwegian Solar Energy Cluster have, Startup Lab, all of this. This is a good example of how to work together to find the good companies and solutions.
So we're taking the round there, Atle.
Okay, so perfect. Of course, I'm clearly biased in that regard, but I would say, first of all, look at ways of partnering up with Startup Lab, whether you're an entrepreneur with a brilliant idea to solve the climate crisis, or if you're a partner looking for deal flow, looking for ideas for innovation projects. And secondly, if you haven't done already, make sure that you'd register for next year's 2030, the climate initiative to match climate headaches with practical solutions from startups. So that's my 2 best tips of the day.
Morten?
Engage students.
Good point.
That's one thing. And then come together with us to create advanced impact studies.
Thanks for that. Victoria, you are the instigator here in a way, so
Yeah, well,
give us the tips or tricks. Or
well, I think that we do need more focus on reuse and recycling to actually make circular economy a real thing. So I think a tip for me would be to work on that. And obviously, I don't know if you can call it a tip, but I really do hope that Cleantech Oslo will be a success. And we are very proud in the city of Oslo to be a part of to have been part of funding the Cleantech initiative. So it's not a tip, but it's wishful thinking or a good wish. Not wishful thinking, but a good wish.
That's 2 different things.
Yeah, 2 different things.
Take the good wish, not the wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Erik?
Yeah, 2 things. First of all, I think this whole notion of the innovation districts, I think that's a great notion, and so thank you to Oslo Municipality for that. I think that brings together, the best players, like I just spoke about earlier, and in a structured way. So I think that's a perfect way to do it, I think. Secondly, I do think that we need to make sure that the unicorns stay in Oslo, which means that the founders need to stay in Oslo, the companies need to stay in Oslo, the headquarters need to stay in Oslo. We need to keep the knowledge base of those, those who have done it before, because that's such an inspiration for the people who want to do it now. And you see that the places who actually are doing that, that's a huge sort of inspiration for other people to innovate even more.
We need the unicorns to stay.
Yeah.
Good. I think I'll first of all, thank you very much for joining us here this afternoon. And I'm supposed to wrap it all up with some great insights into what to do next. But I think what we'll do is take the tips and tricks. I would say more tips than tricks. Maybe the tricks coming later from us. But still, I think to massage this into a great strategy plan for Oslo Cleantech Up to go further. And so thank you both for the insights and the discussions. And thank you for the people that's been here live, in real life, believe it or not. And of course, to all you people in the stream world somewhere, welcome to Oslo Live, hopefully. That's not a wishful thinking, that's a beautiful wish. Next year for Oslo Innovation. Big thank you so much, and you will hear more from us, from the whole panel, I guess. You mentioned a couple of things here, all of you. So thanks, and have a great evening. Thank you.